Hi everyone! Welcome to the first episode of the Sheroes Project. I'm Anika Iyer, and I'm delighted to have all of you join in hearing the remarkable stories of some incredible women, Sheroes, who are blazing new trails, disrupting stereotypes, and who are the quintessential role models for the aspiring female engineers and computer scientists today. Each month, I'm looking forward to showcasing the journey of a new Shero, and I can promise you that you will leave more inspired and motivated than you came. So, today's first Shero is Yanbing Li, the Senior Vice President and General Manager for the Storage and Availability Business Unit at VMware, a Palo Alto-based, industry-leading provider of virtualization and cloud computing software. Named one of the most powerful women engineers in 2015 by Business Insider, Yanbing is one of only 14% of engineering professionals who are female, and of course, a far tinier percentage of those who hold a technical leadership position in a Fortune 500 company in the US. Thank you so much, Yanbing, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, as many people know, the title of this episode is The High-Tech Girl in High Heels, a catchphrase that Yanbing has taken to being called in the workplace. And I know everyone wants to hear the story behind the high heels, and we will get to that shortly. But first, Yanbing, tell us a little bit about your journey from one end of the globe in China to Silicon Valley, the mecca of technology and innovation. You can talk a little bit about your childhood, your school in China, your college in the US, and then leading up to now.
Absolutely, yeah. I think my childhood is largely defined by many schools. Growing up in China, our childhood is largely defined by schools. Luckily, I was a good student, so I have always been having, I would say, smooth sailing through schools all the way. So I skipped a grade even when I was in elementary school because I was doing really well. So I ended up going to one of the most prestigious college through a very demanding college entrance exam. This is also a very important thing for kids growing up in China. And I ended up being ranked #1 in my whole city and region. So that was a big deal. I went to electrical engineering in Tsinghua University. And after graduation, I came to the States for graduate school. So the way I've defined my school is I keep going to schools until there's no more schools to go to. So I've gone all the way. Yeah. And so certainly I had the luxury of calling both China home and Silicon Valley home. And I think that defined to a large extent who I am and how my kids are brought up.
That sounds like an incredible journey.
Thank you.
So my next question centers around what inspired you personally to pursue engineering. Because even in the US today, the number of female engineers and computer scientists is abysmally low. And one of the key reasons is the lack of accessible female role models. So who were your role models and who inspired you?
So great question. My engineer role model actually was my father. So his lifelong dream was to become an electronics engineer, because at the time it was largely around electronics as opposed to be a computer. But he didn't have an opportunity, so he gone into more of mechanical material engineering, and so he was an engineer. But his unfulfilled dream, and that left me to fulfill the dream to pursue electrical engineering. I guess he influenced myself and also my brother, who also went to the same undergrad majors in the same electrical engineering. So it was largely influenced by my father. And I think I was lucky that in China there wasn't necessarily a stereotype against engineering for girls. So even though the percentage of girls in engineering school is still lower than men, but it wasn't considered a really bad professional choice. So that was actually considered a really difficult to get in field and a highly attractive field. So that's how I ended up in the electrical engineering and computer engineering.
Awesome. So Yanbing, can you describe a typical day at work? What exactly does a female engineering leader do today?
Yeah, I keep thinking about that. I think it varies day by day. For example, this morning I started off with meetings, conference calls with my teams in global locations, and I was also just in a meeting with a potential customer. So and sometimes I'm on the road, I'm traveling, I'm attending events, I'm meeting with customers, or sometimes speaking to media. I think this is definitely the fun part of the day. Uh, so I think it varies. My kids keep saying, "Oh, you just have a lots of meetings." That seems to be what we do. I think that's largely true. And I keep thinking, what's the consistency in every day? And the way I look at it, the consistency is in any given day, there is probably a difficult situation, and sometimes think, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to go through that situation or that day?" But we survive. So it's always unpredictable, but interesting and challenging.
Yeah, I'm sure. So next I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the gender divide itself, which we know as women in computer science and engineering is very real. And it's not easy to rise to a position of leadership as a woman. In fact, we often hear the phrase, "it's lonely at the top." I believe you once mentioned on CNN that you compare yourself to the last remaining male northern white rhino. So what advice would you give young girls who aspire to get to the top? And can you?
I really love that rhino analogy, because last year I saw this picture of this rhino that seemed to be the only one of the same species remaining, and it was a male one, not a female one. And there were 4 females remaining. So I find that really struck a chord with me mentally. So I use that picture. And this year I heard a new terminology, because a group of female leaders were at a panel discussing the gender challenge. And they were called the unicorns. I get the commonality between unicorns and rhino is they have all one corn. And so definitely it is true. We see a smaller percentage of female engineers to begin with, and as you move into leadership, executive position, that percentage become even smaller. And so when I got into the industry, people said, "Hey, there is a glass ceiling for women, obviously, to advance." And also because I'm a woman in technology, I was told there is also a technology ceiling for us. And because I'm also Asian, sometimes people say, "Hey, there is also a bamboo seating for you." And I'm just thinking all these seatings ahead of me. I think luckily I was able to be in an environment where I feel there is a lot of support, and I have been able to navigate my career path in technology, and I still enjoy what I do. It's absolutely cutting edge. I work with wonderful, interesting people, really talented people, and disruptive technology. So I'm definitely having fun, and I wish there were more of us in technology.
Yeah, definitely. So through your journey as an engineer, has there ever been an aha moment that you can share? A moment where you discovered something pivotal or where things really made sense?
Yeah, so I have always been in technology, through my education and through my career. So I have never thought about not being in technology. So, but one thing I had a major aha moment is when I turned 40. So I know a lot of you are still very, very far from that major milestone in your life. So my aha was, I feel before 40, I was kind of on a autopiloting mode in how I manage my education and career. So because I was a good student, I naturally just keep going to school. And because I was kind of good at something, I just keep doing more. So when I turn 40, I think, okay, maybe it's time to start to plan what's ahead of us, because ahead of me. So I think that was a big aha moment when I started to be a lot more strategic about my career objective. So, and really start to plan, where I want to grow, what domain I need to continue to, grow in, and what expertise I need to reinforce, and what my ultimate career goal looks like. So that was my big aha moment. Yeah. And it's okay to do it at 40 years old.
Yeah, well, that's good for us to hear as well, for those of us that are still waiting for that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on, the general
Okay.
stereotype doesn't usually associate high heels and high tech. What is the
Right.
connection
Yeah.
between high heels and high tech, and what does that phrase mean to you?
Well, this is actually a catchphrase given by my team. I have some really creative and observant team members, and they noticed what made me different among, our crowd in the office is I wear high heels all the time, and and I have been the same since I was in, I guess, my first day at work. So I like it. Not only is fun, is unique. I think it really reflect who I am. The basically high tech doesn't mean this cookie cutter stereotype image of the that we all need to fit in, and it um, allow me to embrace who I am and celebrate who I am. So I love it, and I love shoes. So
Yeah, that's a great message because I think what a lot of young girls struggle with is that one iconic image of the guy, the kind of
yeah,
guys club that they feel like they need to fit in.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I have to share one thing about shoes. I was becoming guilty about my label and my obsession. So this year, as part of my New Year resolution, I've decided to set a goal. That is, I have to read a book in order to buy a pair of shoes. So, and that has been very motivating for me. Yeah.
That's great. My last question for you today, before I open it up to the folks that are online, is if you could give your younger self some advice, maybe one piece of advice, what would that be, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, so I have been thinking about that. Let me offer a couple of advice. One is, invest in leadership learning. Obviously, when we're in school, we focus much more on knowledge, whatever domain we're in, whether it's computer science or engineering or other domain that we specialize in. We feel education is all about learning a particular domain knowledge. I do think leadership is also learning, so invest time in learning aspect of leadership, whether it's communication, collaboration, how you plan out your professional journey. I think those are just as important as learning professional knowledge in a specific major or domain. So I think that's something I wish I knew when I was younger. The other reflection that is kind of my personal learning is, Korea is a very long trajectory. This group is so young. I think you easily have 40, 50 years ahead of you from your education till you retire. So as you think about this very long journey, I would suggest for you to think about the destination as well as the experience, because I do think the journey is both about the destination and the experience, and they're equally important. I've talked to so many people, and people at my age, I ask where they want to go from their career. They can't say because they haven't been thinking about the destination. Obviously, experience is equally important. The type of environment that you're in, the type of people you work with. Yeah. So think about destination and what kind of experience you want to have for your career. I wish I thought about that.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think that'll definitely be helpful for all of us here. So thank you, Yanbing, for sharing your story with us. I'd now like to
All these questions. Yeah,
yeah.
you clearly have thought about it.
To the other folks on the Hangout, so this can be more of an interactive session. Do we have any questions for Yanbing from the others on the Hangout?
Yeah, I do.
Great.
Hi, Dana.
Hi, what's up? My question is, what do you think is the most important quality that a leader should have?
Important leadership quality. I think I kind of think about the advice I was given when I was a new employee in a professional environment, and my mentor at the time said, Yanbing, in this environment, in a professional environment, you need to get used to take charge or be willing to take charge. And I kind of interpret that in many, many different ways. So, for example, take charge means you need to have a voice. I also feel coming from an Asian background where, we grew up, wanting to listen and follow rather than having a voice or opinion. So I do think one aspect of taking charge is to have your independent opinion and willing to have it heard. And the other aspect is about willingness to step up, to take initiative, and so I see those as core elements of taking charge, and that has been what I think about in terms of leadership. Obviously, leadership by itself, there are many facets, but these are the things that come to my mind as a very important qualities. Thank you, Dana.
Thanks.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I have a few.
Hi, Raya.
Hi, Yanbing. Thanks for meeting with us. This is really awesome.
Well, thank you for joining. I think you could be doing something more fun.
No, not at all. Well, my name's Raya. I study mechanical engineering here at Duke, and I'm actually the co-president of a club here called Girls Engineering Change.
Okay.
And basically what we do, we get young girls involved in engineering through like very hands-on kit builds, but all these kits are used for service purposes. So one of my aspirations is to be like a female in tech in the Silicon Valley area, and I'm actually going to be there this summer. So I was wondering if you had any ideas of what it was like adjusting to the very cutthroat, tech-heavy environment of Silicon Valley as a female.
You mentioned a few keywords, tech-heavy, cutthroat. I actually don't feel Silicon Valley is necessarily cutthroat. Obviously, it is competitive, is very dynamic, but I think most of the corporations here play a very strong emphasis on ensuring the interns that we host during the summer have a great time, because we see interns not only as key talent pipeline for all the different companies, but you guys really represent the future of tech. So I do think most companies offer very dynamic programs from not only what you need to achieve from a project point of view, but also offer you total experience, social activities among other interns, mentorship program with employees. So I actually don't feel it's very cutthroat.
Good. No, that's great. That's good to hear. I'm kind of nervous about the summer.
Yes, think about how you get the best out of it, not only in terms of learning, understanding how the corporate environment work, but also build relationship and friendship and connection with people, whether it's part of the same intern program or other younger employees. I think there's a lot of opportunity to do fun things. I don't feel it's cutthroat at all.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome. So through your personal experiences, what do you think are some of the reasons there end up being less girls in STEM?
I see the less girls in STEM is much more around what are the real capabilities and potentials of girls are versus the stereotyping that we have in the environment. So for example, I have two young girls, 11-year-old. I believe they're watching, so hopefully I can say something stupid. So they grew up in the Silicon Valley environment. They love tech. They love programming. One of the year's resolution is to do more programming. And, we were recently at a science fair in San Francisco, and they were watching a science show, and one of the girls asked the guy who did the science thing, asking her him, saying, "Can I see your source code?" And she was 10 at the time. So I think I really feel it's our stereotype that's really the main barrier, as opposed to natural interest or capabilities from young girls. And so obviously that's a bigger problem to change. And how we start to correct that stereotype is really, I admire Annika, for being the champion for this program, because stereotype is going to be broken by seeing more and more of us, in tech and being female, being who we are, and and not falling into that stereotype. So,
Right.
seeing more women and more role models is a great way to start to influence that change. So I
Awesome.
really wish that is going to change, because I don't want to see my young girls when
Right.
they have more social awareness, they realize, ooh, tech is not for girls.
Right.
That
Right.
would be a bummer.
That's a really good answer. Very helpful. I have one more question. So
Okay.
have you experienced any like microaggressions being like a female in the STEM field? And if so, how do you tend to speak out against it or confront it?
You mean aggression or?
No, I mean like someone says something that's kind of discriminatory against females in a tech environment.
I do think we experience that once in a while. So what I have learned is most people don't have bad intention. So give you one example. I was doing an important speech at our company's customer event. This is in front of 20,000 people. So this is a big deal. This is a huge stage. So I was feeling really proud of myself to be on that stage.
Right.
I felt I did a great job. So I was feeling great after my session. And one of my coworkers wanted to compliment me on how great I did. And so he's positively intentional. But this is what he said. Say, Yanbing, your role was not really a cameo. So because I actually had a real presenting slot. So he was assuming I must be the cameo.
No.
So we do run into those things with
Yeah.
very positive intention. His intention was to compliment on what
Right.
I've done. But what unconsciously he has shown is
Right.
he can assume I should be a cameo as
Right.
opposed to a real presenter. So we do see that. This is what we call the unconscious bias.
Right.
Unconsciously, people with positive intention, but they may be showing signals of such stereotyping or discrimination. I think as a company, for example, VMware and many other companies in the tech industry is providing training, education around topics like this so that people have more awareness.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but we've seen I've been mistaken as girlfriend of my
Oh
coworker
no.
rather than part of the team. So,
Right. Right.
and again, no bad intention. It's just
Right.
they can just assume. Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it, because I would have probably been mean or something, unlike you.
Yeah. So the way I suggest we manage that is knowing these people have positive intention is for us not to make a big deal of it. I do think
Right.
There has been cases where I provide some feedback to people doing that. For example, I have always been introduced as, here comes the amazing female presenter,
Right.
and I rather than say I don't like it, that's discriminating.
Right.
I just say, hey, look, everybody can see I'm female, right? You don't have to use me as a female speaker.
Right. No, that's so true.
Yeah, so I think there are ways for us to go past that, but I do think unconscious bias is a big deal, and there are lots of good effort by many in the industry to try to increase awareness.
Wow, that was really helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great questions.
I think we have a couple more questions coming up.
Okay, great.
Hi, my name's Erin.
Hi, Erin.
And I'm Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Thank you so much for being here today and for talking to us. You're truly wonderful. We're so impressed. I have a question for you, actually. Has there been a situation when you've experienced defeat, and how have you overcome it?
Defeat. I do think all of us probably experience it at different scale, at different stage of our life. If you think about the notion around glass ceiling, I would say sometimes when I run into certain barrier, I kind of think about, okay, am I hitting the glass ceiling? And I tend to experience less when I was younger, because when I was an engineer, I think the quality of your work is much more measurable. It depends on how much code you build and how good the quality of your technical contribution. It's more measurable. I think as I move up in the career, especially as I become a manager, a lot of things become less tangible. Is sometimes perception based, and how we continue to manage that, knowing not only you have to work hard, but manage the perception of people know the quality of your work. I think that becomes important. And there have been moments where I feel frustrated. Is that, hey, is the quality of my work not being seen by other people? And sometimes, and I have kind of resolved those feeling of frustration by emphasizing, hey, it's not just about the work you do, but also about how people see it, because perception is really becoming the reality. And especially when you are managing people and organization, a lot of things are not so directly, concretely measurable. So it's based on, how people see your work. So yeah, I definitely have had those moments of frustration, defeat, or self-doubt.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have time for one last question.
Okay.
Before we wrap up.
Hi, my name is Samia Sundaram, and I'm an 8th grader at Redwood Middle School in Saratoga.
Hey.
And I've really enjoyed hearing from you so far, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, my first question is, how do you feel that your experience of being in a male-dominant field has shaped you throughout your life?
So that's a very difficult to answer question. I think I'm kind of used to being in this environment. So for example, my husband is also in tech, and sometimes he would socialize with his colleagues. So I would be very curious. Oh, is that a male colleague or a female colleague? And then he just asked me, hey, I never ask you is male or female because I just assume it's always male. So I'm kind of very used to be in this environment. And because that's, when I started college, I remember my class was about maybe a quarter female, and then, the rest guys. And that seemed to be the environment I've grew up in. I don't think I reduced my the feminine side. I still celebrate that. So some of the learning I have along the way is in a male-dominated environment. There are two types of leadership quality. One is how much you're liked, and then how much you are respected. So as women, sometimes we care about whether we're popular or people like us. I think that is important, but much more important is how much you're respected. And respected doesn't mean you're nice or popular all the time. Sometimes you have to make unpopular decisions. So, earning, likeness and respect, I think I constantly need to think about how I balance that. So is that too abstract of an answer?
No, that was great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I think we have one more question from Alex, actually.
Okay.
And then
Hi, Yanbing. I'm Alex. I'm a computer science and entrepreneurship major here at Duke.
Oh, nice.
Great. So I had a question for you, kind of about, I guess you had all that experience in academia for many, many years, as you spoke about. How was it like transitioning from that environment to the very different environment of industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I was doing my PhD, obviously we tend to look at very forward-looking work that is fairly difficult to measure in a very tangible way, both in terms of the outcome, because a lot of the things you're making a lot of assumptions about what's possible. So I feel is less tangible in terms of how much you can make progress and how fast you can move along your research. And so one of the learning I had starting a job is, your performance immediately becomes very measurable on a daily, weekly basis. So that was a big adjustment for me, because when my manager comes to ask me, hey, Yanbing, how's the progress? I say, what do you mean? It's only like 2 hours. Sure. And this versus my PhD study tend to be measured every few months, there is normally a major paper or proposal deadline that you work against. So, and it took me some adjustment that in the professional environment, you really have to be much more conscious of your outcome, your results, especially early on, because a lot of things move really fast and need to be very measurable. Even for some of the longer term projects, you need to have a way to demonstrate progress. So that's my big, the biggest learning. And initially, I couldn't understand why the expectations being so different.
Sure. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I think men are really integral to the solution as we tackle the gender divide. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you again, Yanbing. We're running out of time now, and I know, Yanbing, you need to get back to work, and we all probably have to get back to school. But thank you so much for joining us today and inspiring us. You are
thank you,
a hero.
Thank you, Annika, for your initiative, and thank you for your group of friends for joining me in this discussion. I absolutely had fun, and good luck in pursuing your dream, whether that's engineering or else. I think the society is becoming a lot more inclusive, and tech is becoming a lot more available, accessible, and inclusive. I think there is no better time to be part of technology than today. So good luck, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, and to everyone who joined who's not necessarily on the Hangout as well, thank you, and I hope you guys all enjoyed this as much as we did. A recording of this interview is going to be available very shortly on the Sheroes Project website and on the YouTube channel as well. So please forward it to others you know who might be interested and spread the word. And if you know of a Shero who you think we should include in a future episode, please head to the website and nominate them. And lastly, mark your calendars for the second episode of the Sheroes Project, which is going to be on May 11th at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Time and 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And our next Shero is going to be Mona Sabet, who is the General Manager at the Grace Hopper Celebration of Women in Computing, a conference that I myself attended this year and absolutely loved, and which had a huge impact on me. So details about the next episode will be posted shortly, and I hope that you all will tune in once more to hear her story as well. So thanks again, and hope that everyone has a wonderful evening.
Thank you.